Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Summer Heights here in Planet Coaster. Today we are going to be continuing with the Caribbean themed area and completing this row of facades. This took me quite a long time. It was quite a lot of work to get everything done here. And the first thing really that I had to do was sort out some of this path work. So you can see there the restaurant building we put in the last episode called Marley's, which is a Jamaican cuisine restaurant. I'm really happy with how that came together. The interior looks especially good on that one. So yeah, I was very pleased with that. And I felt that we needed a couple more buildings along the front here to complement it. Now, as obviously Marley's restaurant is the sort of main building that the guests are going to sort of use, these were intended to just be facades, but then I looked at the amount of room that I had left in the area and I thought I'm going to have to make one of them the coaster station, and they both sort of end up integrating part of the coaster, which was going to be sort of a surprise for when that episode actually sort of takes place. But you get a bit of a teaser, a bit of a spoiler here of what the coaster is going to be, because I have to put it in place to make the building work around it, because it all goes together. So you can see here we're putting in the bobsled coaster, the wooden bobsled. And you might think, well, that's a bit of a funny sort of choice for a tropical themed area. The reason for this is an idea just popped into my head recently. So I thought I'd theme this coaster to Cool Runnings, the classic movie where the Jamaican bobsled team go to conquer the world by storm. I just thought it was something a bit different to incorporate into this area, because I was thinking for ages, what sort of coaster do I want? We can't have anything too high up because it wouldn't really suit the theming, the quite sort of low-key buildings. I was thinking maybe we could have a dive coaster or some sort of B&M, but because of the height restrictions I thought no, we need something fairly close to the ground. So I was also thinking about doing a wing coaster with a launch, but there just wouldn't have been room for it in the area, so that's why we're going for this Cool Runnings idea, which, yeah, I think is something we can make work. With the buildings here, they're not inspired by the film or anything. They're literally just more sort of Jamaican architecture, or not Jamaican, sorry, but Caribbean sort of style architecture. And this first one is probably going to be the sort of nicest looking building in the area. The most polished one, sort of the least rundown, and you'll see what I mean when the whole facade comes together. But I was a bit sort of comprehensive when I was building it to start with that it wasn't going to look right or anything, but once the whole thing comes together, the sort of composition works really well together, especially with the fourth and final building that we put in. So here we're just using the sort of pink style terracotta almost walls, all custom made using temple pieces, so that I can go for a bit more of a varied design, and then we can twist and turn them around and stuff like that. There probably are easier ways of building this sort of thing in the game, but I do like to give myself a challenge, and I think it's sort of very important that the coaster wraps around. I think that's going to be quite a good photo spot, quite a good composition to look at once it's all complete. And I've just used this little trick as well of sinking some of the doors in to make them look like small balconies there as well. And yeah, to make everything sort of fit with the coaster here, it was a bit of a nightmare to get the rounded shape in. It didn't work as simple as what I'd sort of envisioned it to do. But it's the same trick as always, build one of something and then copy it and rotate it. So yeah, In this one again we're using a few TMTK pieces just because I didn't really have a roof that would fit otherwise, so we're using some TMTK roof tiles that work quite nicely. I played about for ages trying to get the sort of door window pattern working in the bit underneath the track, but I wasn't too happy with it in the end, so we just keep it the same colour as the rest of the building so that it sort of blends in. We're going to be using all sorts of planting and stuff and props everywhere to cover up the bland looking parts of the build anyway. So yeah, really what we're doing here is getting these tiled roofs to fit, and it's a bit easier when you put all the sort of pieces next to each other, then you can blend them in a bit. It's never going to look perfect doing it like this, but it works well enough, you know, it's not too noticeable. But yes, the problem with this engine is some pieces just do not fit in the way you want them to, even TMTK pieces, so you really have to try and do it a different way or cover up any bits that don't look right. But yeah, overall I do think once this whole row of facades is complete and comes together, it's probably one of the best that I've ever managed to put together in the game. I'm actually really happy with how it's looked, and it's probably my favourite part of the park, even though we've only been working on it for 2 episodes. I've also managed to get this together quite quickly, considering we've been stuck on the Roman themed area for most of the year. But that's just how it goes. So this project now has been going on probably about 14-15 months. So I reckon, yeah, it will sort of be complete about the 18-month stage, because you know this is the only project I'm working on in Planet Coaster. Anytime I put the game on, this is the project to work in. Obviously I play a lot of Parkitect as well, so that takes up like most of my gaming time. So it's always a case of sort of having really good ideas in your head of what to build in the game, and then when you actually load it up, it's like, I've managed to build 1 window piece today in 3 hours. Yeah, it is what it is. Again, just was working on this part for ages, just trying to make the whole sort of window door frame fit nicely together, trying out loads of different ideas with it as well. It obviously had to fit into this certain space. Once it's put together as well, there's loads of finishing off bits as well, which I have recorded most of, so this is why sort of the episode's a bit longer than they normally are. I haven't really cut that much out of the episode either. But it's always nice to see like this when you can actually see how it's properly going to look, and then it's just a case of sort of tidying things up. So what will happen, obviously I haven't built the whole layout of the coaster yet, but what will happen is as it comes into the brake run, it's going to come into this nice sort of rounded section of building, and you're going to get a nice look over the water as you come round the corner into the final brake run into the station. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way that looks, and I can't wait to actually build the ride and sort of have a POV. That will probably be my favourite part of the ride, the brake run. Obviously we need something on the inside of this as well, so then I start working on some very basic window door pieces similar to what we've got on the front of the building, just on the inside, using those sunken in doors so that it all sits well together. Firstly though, I do cover up underneath the track with just some wooden planks, because once I took the catwalk off, which I needed to get rid of the railings, it also loses the actual wooden catwalk section, which I needed sort of something to replace it with, so that's what I put in there. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit hoarse, by the way. It keeps sort of going and I have to stop recording to take a sip of drink. I don't know what's up. I've just got a bit of a sort of croaky voice today. I hope it doesn't bother you all too much while you listen to this commentary. If it does, you can just put me on mute. It doesn't really matter. It's more about the actual stuff I'm building than the rubbish that I'm talking while I'm building it, to be honest. Like I say, this all took way too long to do. Certain bits, especially here, didn't want to rotate exactly how I wanted them to. Sometimes pieces do have a tendency of doing that and sort of locking into the wrong position and whatnot, and then you have to really sort of work out why it's doing it and try and find a way of making it work. But yeah, in the end, it all fits in fairly nicely. It's not perfect, but you can't tell it's not perfect, if that makes sense, because we just cover up any little gaps that are in there. And that's pretty much finally this part of the coaster. So yeah, really, it's just a brake run, but the main reason I'm doing it is so that I can get this front facade complete. Anything that goes on in the back will be a lot quicker to do, because it will just be backstage. Anything that you can't see from the path or on the coaster won't need as much attention or detail, you know, behind here. There'll probably just be a backstage area, and then, like I say, we'll just cover everything up and it will be quite simple. Now, I have to say, before I got the last video out, I did start working on some changes, including the actual colour of the water. So we use a sort of pattern, like a texture for the water on a billboard, which you'll see in just a second. The whole waterfront completely changes, and you would have noticed that if you were really paying attention in the cinematics in the last video, because I'd done that before I'd actually finished recording that one. It just took me quite a long time to get the video sort of completed, and I'd been back in the game playing before then, if that makes sense. So this bit's recorded when this has already been done, which is really sort of disorganised, but yeah, it's all finished now anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I really think that changing this water to a different texture and colour really changes the whole look and feel of the area, so I'm really happy with how that worked out. And then here I'm just finishing off some of the wall and the fencing around the edge there. Before we come on to the coaster station building now, like I say, this wasn't originally intended to be a coaster station. It just so happened to turn out that way because of where I wanted everything to go and what I had room for. So this is a much more old-fashioned building based on more traditional sort of Caribbean architecture that you see with open like wooden panels and stuff like that. I mean, this is quite generic architecture that could sort of fit in anywhere, but I also wanted some sort of standout building with a different style and more architectural features. So this one has a big clock tower, well, a clock tower on the front with a bit of a spire as well, which I do think could work somewhere in maybe the Caribbean or Cuba or somewhere like that. I didn't use any reference image or anything like that, I just sort of did it off the cuff. So yeah, I hope this building fits into the architectural style that we're going for. But either way, it sort of completes the area, and I was really apprehensive about that pink building before this one went in, but when you see them both together they actually do look really good. So I'm glad that I sort of persevered with it, and we've got quite a nice end result. And the good thing about this is, although it's just a rectangular building, it looks a lot more interesting because of the different sort of features on the front of it, I suppose. So it's not just one big boring box. which is nice. And really that's all I'm going to say today on the commentary. There's a little bit more that I do once this building's in place, mainly finishing off stuff. I do add a small marketplace in front of the building to the left, and then I go into the back behind the buildings just to make sure everything's polished off, make sure everything looks okay for the cinematics at the end. And that's pretty much it for this front facade. So in the next episode I will be working on the layout for the bobsled coaster and finishing that. So thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye bye.